Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Aspiring Adult Podcast. My name is Alexandra Hayek, and I'm your host. Today, we have my cousin Tomas. Um, yeah,
Hello,
there's
guys.
literally, that's how we know each other. There's literally nothing else to say. So, Tomas, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm Tomas Signini. I'm Alex's cousin, and I'm excited to be on this podcast.
Yeah. Um, so Tomas lives in Florida and goes to school there, and he's a
Yep.
Marine. So, and then what did you end up majoring in? International relations?
Yeah, I'm a major in international relations.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about like first, how did you decide that you wanted like we were just talking about this, but Tomas has lived many lives in
Yeah.
in his 21 years of life. You've played soccer, you've done the chef
Yeah.
gig, you've done the influencer gig, the rapper gig.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Everything.
and now you're a Marine and you're majoring in international relations. So, like, first, how did you kind of decide that you wanted to be in the Marines? And also, then, how did you decide that you wanted to do international relations above like anything else?
So I'll start with the Marine thing. Basically during COVID, I graduated during COVID in 2021. And, during that whole phase of my life where we were, locked in the house and not doing anything, I was very bored. It's a very funny story. I was very bored and I honestly wasn't having the greatest relationship with my parents just because like I was locked in with them. And you know how my mom is. We're very argumentative people. And I felt like I was just, kind of shutting myself off from my family because I was just like, I'm tired of being with them in the house all day, every day. And I was like also kind of lost because of soccer. Because of COVID, I missed a whole year of recruiting. And, I had about like 17 offers to go play college soccer. And a lot of those kind of went away with COVID. And the ones that stayed, I wasn't really interested in. They were either small schools with kind of good academic credentials, or they were big schools with really bad academic credentials. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And one day I was just scrolling through social media and I saw this ad that said, do you want to, make a path for yourself and be like, be the best, join the Marines. And I was like, okay. So I like put my phone number and my email in the little ad and I forgot about it. Couple weeks later, I'd say about a month and a half later, I got a call from Staff Sergeant Wolverton, who was my recruiter, saying like, "Hey, I saw you put your phone number down on this. Do you want to come in and like talk?" And I was like, you know what? Sure. So I came into the office and then kind of told him what I wanted to do. And he was like, hey, like I have this great program where you could join the Marine Corps, do about a year of active duty and do all your training, all your your initial active duty training, and then you could go get out and be a reservist. And in the reserves, really realistically, all we do is like 1 week in a month. We do some training, and then during the summer, we do about a month where we do some pretty cool stuff. I just got back from the Mountain Warfare Training Center in California, where we did some mountain warfare training, which is pretty cool. We were over there in Bridgeport, California, in the Sierra Nevada, and it was amazing. One of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life. And some of the best training I've done. But that's really how I came about it. It was just a random ad that I saw on Instagram, and the guy was pretty cool guy, convinced me to do it. And I was like, you know what? I feel like I've never taken a risk like that in my life prior to that. And I was like, let's do something different. So I decided to do that. And, being in the reserves, I finished all my training in 2022. And I went back to my path of, going to college. And I got to college in the fall of 22. I came in, I was an aerospace engineering major. And, I got to college and I felt like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna be an engineer. My mom's always told me to be an engineer, the whole
Right.
thing. She's
Same,
been
same.
saying I was gonna be an engineer my entire life without even giving me a choice, but that's okay. She's wanted the best for me. And I did it for about 2 semesters when I realized that I didn't like math anymore. Um, I got to calculus and it was not fun. I felt like, algebra, geometry, like all this stuff. I loved it. It was super easy for me, but I got to calc and I was like, why are there more letters than numbers in these questions?
Right.
And Uh, this is a different language to me, and I just didn't. I not only did I not feel like with all the studying I was doing, I was understanding it. I was just not enjoying it. I felt like going to class was a dread, and like all the assignments we were doing, I just didn't. I just did not feel happy. And a whole other side thing that happened, I got kind of screwed over by the school with my calculus class. They like failed me, even though I didn't fail. I was gone for the military for a month, and it's been a whole ordeal. But I just decided I was done with the college, what's it called, the College of Engineering at UCF. It was not a fun faculty. They're not very good. So I was looking into things that like I've liked throughout my life, and I kind of looked a little bit within myself and spoke to my parents and thought like, what's something that I've always enjoyed, and I love reading about history, and I love talking about politics and stuff like that. And I was like, boom, I like international things and I like politics, international relations. So that's kind of how it came about with that major. And I'm honestly loving it now. Like I actually love doing my assignments. We usually just write papers about like, current events. We get to read a lot about history, a lot about the news, and like just have discussions on current events, which is honestly, I love a lot more than doing trigonometry. Um, but yeah, that's really how it came about it.
That's awesome. I feel like college is such a great place to like kind of find what you really want. And it's so easy, to switch from one to the other. And I feel like if you're not doing something that you love in college, like then it's gonna get harder to discern what you want to do for a job. Or like it's even if you don't end up doing that for a job, it's like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, it's important to have something that will help you in the future, but it's also like take advantage of it and do something that like really truly interests you, and that way you'll excel anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been looking into internships lately with my career designation. And like, for example, I just got accepted past the first stage of applicants for a NATO internship in Belgium.
That's awesome.
I would like move to Belgium for 6 months, and I would work in Brussels at the HQ for NATO, and I would work with like the American delegation at NATO, and like they would pay me like 4,000 euros a month with like 30 days paid vacation. Like they give me a house and like food. I wouldn't have to pay for anything, and they would pay me on top of it, and I get to do cool stuff over there. So there's a lot of opportunities in this field, which I really enjoy. With engineering, there's also obviously a lot of high paying opportunities, but I feel like it's also a field that is going to get a lot automated in the next couple of decades. So I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people that are studying engineering now are very valuable, but with the way AI is going and the way that technology is going, I feel like all these people working at engineering firms are going to end up being computers because it's, more cost effective for them.
Mhm.
But I feel like you'll always need people to work with, foreign relations because it's, people are people, and you can't deal with people with AI, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Um, I actually like in one of my college courses, we talked a little bit about like AI and automation and what was going to replace what AI was going to replace, and then what jobs or fields were going to be more important. And
Yeah.
kind of the conclusion that everybody came to was like the humanities were going to be like way more pursued and like become a much more important part of life, like it was in like, I don't know, like Greek times, and
Yeah.
like everybody was a philosopher, everybody was writing, everybody was like,
Exactly.
you know,
It's got
um
a Renaissance era of, ideas and, you know, a lot of writing, in my
yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I mentioned at the beginning, you have
Uh-huh.
lived many lives,
Yes, I have.
which I think is awesome. Um so I want to ask you, what is the thing that has most surprised you about this stage of your life?
About this stage, responsibility and you know, going into the real world, and like having to like have bills and pay for things, and budgeting your money, working. Because right now, not only am I in the Marines and I'm a student, I also have a full-time job as a bartender, um, which helps me pay for my bills because I got to pay my house, my car, insurance, all that stuff. And I definitely feel like I gained a lot of responsibility joining the Marine Corps straight out of high school. At 18, it taught me a lot about, self-responsibility and, commitment, but also now that like I'm coming up on my end of college and I'm just like starting to look into like, careers, jobs, where I want to live. Do I want to stay in Orlando? Do I want to move somewhere else? Definitely what has surprised me is the amount of like, responsibility you have to like keep up with your things. Um, and also like, which is not maybe a positive, is definitely probably a negative, is the amount of stress that you start to come into as more of an adult. You realize like, hey, you're not a kid anymore. You're not a college teenager just having fun. Like you gotta like,
Fuck
figure your
it.
things. It's just fucking stressful. But hey, at the end of the day, you just gotta put yourself first and you know do everything in the present, but while also thinking about the future. Like obviously, like I'm a very stressful person. I mean, you've met my sister and my mom, my dad. We're all very stressful people. I guess it's in the genetics. But I think it's just because we're worried about the future, and that's always okay. But you also got to think about living in the present. So that's what I've been trying to do over the last couple of months is live in the present while keeping the future in like in the mind, not
Yeah.
forgetting about the future because there's always going to be a tomorrow, but not there will always be a tomorrow, but there won't always be a tomorrow with you. That's the thought that I've had.
Yeah, I think it's like so hard to, balance the two, right? Because you don't want to
Like,
completely like disregard or like you said, you want to have some responsibility and you want to be able to like think critically and think, okay, like what am I doing now and how's this going to affect me in the future? But you don't want that so much to weigh down on you to the point where it becomes like paralyzing, you know?
exactly.
And I feel
I
like
agree.
when it does become paralyzing, it kind of like takes you in a loop where like in the end it like self-sabotages you and you like don't even you're not even too able to advance in the things that you want to.
Yeah, I think it's very important to when you're, get to a level of stress and like maybe anxiety that you're in, you take a step back and just breathe. Just realize that you're here now. You might not be there tomorrow. So live in the now, but also take into account that your decisions now will affect the future. That's how I've been trying to live it up, I guess. Like I was just in Mexico with my parents, and it was like kind of my break from reality for about a week and a half, where I was just like, I'm here. Let's enjoy it. Let's have fun. And not stress so much about what's going on in your, future. Just try to live in the moment a little bit. But yeah,
I relate to that a lot. I tend to live in the future too, so it's I feel like it's something that we all need to learn to
Yeah,
do. It's such a like cliche thing to say, but it's very true. So,
no, of course, yeah.
okay. So, my next question for you is how did you imagine yourself at this age? And like, how's that different or similar to where you're at now?
Huh. Well, okay. Like when I was younger, like how younger? Like when I was a little
Like when you
kid,
were
or like when I was in high school, middle
like
school.
when you were like in middle school.
Well, when I was in middle school, I was fully convinced I was going to be a professional soccer player. Um, uh, I definitely thought I was going to be, living it up, playing in Europe. Obviously, that didn't happen. But I also think that I just saw myself trying to be true to myself, and just being myself and not, giving a fuck about what other people think about me. When I was a kid, when I was younger, I definitely had a big misconception that, what other people think of you is what matters. Especially like through middle school, beginning of high school, middle of high school, I started like getting it, I started getting the point, but at the beginning, I definitely felt like, oh, like I got to do this so that people will like me, or I got to do this so I'll have more friends. And I definitely didn't think that was like at now I know that wasn't what's right, but back then that's just what I thought. Obviously struggling with my identity, moving here, this too, like, moving to America as, Latino or Latina, like coming to this country and like kind of like reformed yourself a little bit, like at least for me, like I definitely couldn't be the same person I was in Venezuela, but I try to take a little bit of that, my heritage and my life and try to build it into something that is what I am now. So I got into a whole little loop, but basically, I think it's very kind of similar to what I thought I would be now, how I saw myself when I was younger, just trying to stay true to myself. Um, and you know, don't not giving a fuck about what other people think of me, just living my life the way I believe I should live it and not letting what other people think or say affect me so much.
Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, right? Like, as long as you have a good sense of self and of your values and what you want and who you are, I feel like the rest is bound to fall into place at some point. Like, whether it's earlier or later than you thought, like, it's
Yeah,
bound to happen at some point, which is the most important thing. Um,
exactly.
and yeah, and what you said about like the moving part, and like trying to bring a little bit of yourself from like Venezuela to the you that you are now, I think it's like it's such a at this point it's becoming more and more of like a universal experience, right? Like people who are from multiple cultures and you kind of like become this collage of all these different cultures and it's like
This
oh
melting pot.
yeah, but it's like a weird thing to like be a part of because you're never
You're never fully from somewhere. Like
yeah.
that's one thing that whenever someone asks me, like, "Oh, like where are you from?" I'm like, huh, "Which part?" Like I could tell you, like I'm
How long do
American.
you have?
Yeah, like how long do I have to talk to you? Because, I could say I'm American. I've been living here the last 10 years of my life and I'm a US citizen. Or I could tell you I was born in Spain and then I grew up in Venezuela, but then my dad's side is Italian and Spanish, and then my mom's side is Lebanese and Spanish, and it's like a big mix. But at the end of the day, I'm also Venezuelan, so it's like, you know, but at the end of the day, like I think it's very cool to be such a mix because you have so many different experiences from so many different parts of the world that kind of make up who you are. And it gives you a different outlook on life. There's people here that I know that I'm friends with that like have never left America. And they're like fully like, their ancestors came from like England in the 1600s type thing. Like they're completely American. And they have a different outlook, and it's not a bad thing either. It's just they don't have the experiences that other people have, which is it's a good thing too. Um, but what I'm trying to say is basically like I think it's very cool and very good to like be such a mix because it gives you a different outlook on life. It gives you a lot of different cultures that you're mixed with and like different foods that you get to eat. Like I love arepas and empanadas, but I love tabule and kibe too. And then paella is one of my favorite dishes too. And like it's a mix of cultures. And I think I love being a mix of cultures. I get to claim a lot of different things.
Yeah,
So.
definitely. Okay, so my next question for you is what is something that you're looking forward to or what is something that you're overcoming? And you can answer both or just one, up to you.
Um, Looking forward, I'll answer both of them. Looking forward to, um, actually, I'll start with the overcoming one. Probably overcoming myself. Very interesting. Trying to be, better every day. Trying to not allow myself to settle for, settle for the minimum. I feel like people, not just me, but everybody feels like sometimes they get caught in this like cycle of just like waking up, doing this, going to work or doing whatever, studying, then going back to bed. And then, you know, I feel like every day I want to try to do something great every day or do like something small that like, oh, I didn't do this yesterday and like it makes me feel better. Definitely like working out more, maybe reading a book, just things like that. Like definitely just overcoming self, especially like stop being a procrastinator. That's another thing that my mom always reams me for is being a procrastinator. And it's not even like I want to be a procrastinator. It's just like I could do it later. And you
Yeah.
get caught into this thing like, oh, like pushing things back. And like I think that's another thing I want to overcome, like, being more proactive about life, more proactive about, your duties and things that you have to do. Um, if you have to call, if you have a set up a meeting with somebody because there's something important that you need to talk to them about, like do it and then go to it. Like, follow through and do these things. Like don't let them wait for the last minute, you know? That's something I want to work on. And then yeah, just overcoming self, laziness, all these things that kind of slow you down and don't let you progress as a human being. Definitely want to overcome all of those things. Also getting off my phone so much. That's one thing that lately I've been thinking about. I want to not be on my phone as much. I feel like definitely it's not good for your brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scrolling endlessly, through TikTok or Instagram Reels, especially when my mom sends me 25 Instagram Reels a day.
Oh yeah.
Definitely want to try to get off my phone as much.
Yeah.
That's another. And then a goal for myself, something I want to accomplish when I graduate with good grades. And then I want to become an officer in the military. My whole plan over the last couple of years were that I was going to go to college and then I was going to graduate and then go to officer candidate school for the Marine Corps, be an officer, and then form a career out of that. But lately, I feel like, especially after going to Mexico, I think going to Mexico was like a life-changing trip to me. I
Mhm.
swear. Like this little trip we took with my family to this small town in Baja California Sur, where we met my dad's best friend. It was like I don't know. I just like saw what he was doing with his life, and like he's married with two kids. He has a tourism company where they do like scuba diving trips and they do like boat trips, fishing, and then he has a microbrewery and he's trying to open a beer garden. And like he doesn't make a shitload of money. Like he's not a millionaire, but I feel like he makes enough to be comfortable. And like at this point, I kind of want to be kind of like that. Like I want to do something that I love because he loves that stuff, and I want to do something that I love. And I'm not really, you know, I don't really want to like do something like insane, like out of my life. Like I want to do something that I love and be happy with it and be comfortable with where I'm at in life. And like, just doing something you love. Like that's the basic end of it. It's just like always do something you love. Because if you're doing something you love that doesn't make too much money, but you can live a comfortable life, I feel like that's so much better than working this like high job where you're like a multi-billionaire, but you're depressed or you're sad, like where you're not happy with where you're at. And I'm not saying like having like huge high goals is a bad thing. I think it's a great thing. If that's what you want, then that's what you want. But lately I've been kind of like having these like internal, discussions with myself about like what I really want in my future. And I definitely want to continue with the military and then with what I'm studying and see where it takes me. Because as of right now, I like it and I'm enjoying what I'm studying and I'm enjoying all these kinds of things. But definitely in the future, maybe I'll change what I want to do. Maybe I'll have a career change. I don't know. I've like this whole life, I feel like my entire life since I was young, I feel like I've been talking like my family and like myself have been like expecting like these really, really like high things about myself, which I still do. But like it's always been like, oh, like you're gonna do this. And like I've had like this one path that I've been like on since I was like six, since I could remember. And like now I'm just like I feel like experiencing a lot more things in life. And I'm just thinking about like maybe like for example, like the first change was like changing from aerospace engineering, being an engineer, because I thought I was gonna be an engineer my entire life since I could remember. I've been saying from my family, my cousins, my uncles, my mom, my dad, you're gonna be an engineer, and that's what I thought I was gonna do, and now I'm not doing that. So like what I'm trying to say is like always be happy with what you're doing. Do something that you love. And right now I love what I'm doing and I want to keep going with it. But, my goal in life is just to be happy. Wherever I may be, wherever I may end up, whatever I may be doing, is just to be happy. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, really.
Yeah.
So
I feel like a lot of the times success is portrayed as either money or a job title or a status of some kind. And I feel like a lot of us need to shift that into, okay, like what makes me happy? And like you said, it can be obviously it's important in this world to like have the money to live comfortably, but just because you don't want to like have however many like millions of dollars or whatever, like have this big ass job and like so much money, that doesn't mean that you're less successful or less happy um
exactly.
than your counterpart because other people can that if that's what they want and that's what success feels like to them, okay, great, that's fine. go for it. But if it's not like what you want, then don't go for it. It's fine. It's okay. You don't need to like be like everybody else. And I feel like I had to come to terms with that. Or like I feel like actually I feel like I've known that for a little while because with what I want to do, it's not necessarily like I probably could have done something that would have been more lucrative um
Right.
and less hard to get into. But like you said, like I love that you said that because I was like me, like that's me. I was like, I would rather have less money and live like
And, uh,
a normal life than like have much more money and like do something where like I want to cry and kill myself every time I go there, you know?
exactly. And like I've part of like that realization that I've had over the last like couple of months is like I see um a lot of people that like, obviously like, well, like I got this new job and I'm gonna get make this much money and like this and that. And like, yeah, that's cool. I mean, since a kid, I've always thought like, yeah, I gotta make money so I can be happy. That's always like what I thought. But then I've been like, reading a lot, meeting a lot of people that are like, yeah, like I do like, I don't know, for example, like being a small business owner, you're not making, a shitload of money, but I feel like you could be comfortable doing something like that depending on what industry you go to. And it's just like kind of like looking in self. Like I've always had so many like this one path. I've lived different lives within that one path. Um, but I've always thought like I was gonna end up in this one specific place, and now I'm not. And it's like kind of just figuring out as I go a little bit. Um, I still want to like, stay in the military. I signed a 6-year contract, so I still got till 2028 to be here. Haha. Um, and 2027, I think actually. 2027, yeah. I got till 2027, signed off my life to the
Three
government.
more years. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm 3 years in. I got 3 more years. Sounds about right. But yeah, I definitely been living a lot of different, experiences lately that have kind of changed my outlook on life. Maybe I at some point I do want to become a multi-billionaire and I find like, maybe like I get out of the military and I go into politics, which is something I would be interested in. That would be I've always thought I've had like dreams about me being like a governor or something. Like I don't know. That'd be pretty cool. Something like that. Like I definitely there's a lot of things that I like in life. And I feel like also at this age that we have, you shouldn't be like 100% set on what you're gonna do with your life. At this stage of your life, like when we're still young, like I'm only 21 years old, and like at this stage is when you should be like, meeting people, making connections, living experiences, studying and like, kind of using all these experiences and like people you meet as like knowledge that you could take in so you can live through life and then in the next couple of years then you can maybe decide like hey like this is what I'm going to do, this is the path I'm going to take, and this is the career I'm going to do. But I feel like when you're 21, like you're still 21 years old, in my opinion, is a weird age because you're old enough to have responsibility to pay your bills and live life on your own, like this and that, but you're also too young to even like, get your own car insurance without getting charged a lot or rent a car, you know? And
Yeah.
like, so it's such a weird age where I feel like, if you're 21, you should still be living, these experiences, like, and not worrying so much about like your career. I mean, like, freaking my dad, for example, my dad's had like 4 different careers. He's a successful guy, but he's done, I don't even, when he was 21, I think he was like in college, but then he dropped out. But like 4 years later, he went to flight school and became a pilot. But then he stopped doing that and he became a photographer. Like he's done a lot of things in his life. And, now he's a very successful man, in my opinion. And, you know, when you're 21, you don't have to settle so much for what you're going to do in your life. You don't really need to know what you're going to do. I feel like you should just live. Like I said, we were talking in the beginning, like, live in the moment, but like also keep in mind what's, your future. Um, that's why like it's such a weird age. Like I'm like 21 and I'm like, damn, like I feel old, but like I shouldn't.
I'm like my back hurts.
No, especially being in the military. My knees are screwed. My back is just killing me every day. I swear I got scoliosis. I don't know. I'm like, my mom's always telling me, like, fix your posture. I'm like, I can't. Like,
looking at myself in the
Want me
camera
to sit like this? Like,
like better, but then I feel like I'm just like popping my chest out and that looks
yeah,
weird.
right? It's like I feel like I'm walking like one of those gym bros. Like,
Yes. Yes. The ones that have so much muscle they can't move their neck. You're like,
yeah, it's really interesting. No, it's super. There's a lot of things that 21-year-olds should not be worried about. And I talk to this like with my girlfriend all the time. Like she's always very stressed about like, yeah, like I don't want to be like homeless. I need a career. I'm like, relax, you're 20. Like chill out, Like you live in the moment, you
yeah.
know. Don't take any moment for granted.
Yeah. And I think that really goes with what you said of like, your interests and like you should pursue your interests, but if they change, like accept that and, make a switch. Like you're early enough that you can do that. Yeah, like you don't have a family, you don't have kids, like, well,
Exactly.
most people don't at this age. So like
Oh,
you
I
don't
hope so.
so like you don't have like all these things tying you down to like that you like external factors that you have to think about
No, yeah,
um to like make those changes that you want to. Like your life is so much more malleable in this place than it will be in the far future, like we said, like
exactly.
in
You
the near future.
still time with the technology and the medical advances we've had. Like our generation is gonna be the ones that are like living till like 90, like 100, and like we're not even a quarter of the way through our lives. Like not even a quarter. So like I don't feel like you're really obliged to like find specifically what you want to do with your life at this age. I feel like it's definitely a moment where you like I said, live experiences that you might not be able to do when you're older and meet people, go out of your way to make a conversation with somebody you don't know. Or, that's what I love about bartending. Bartending, I get to talk to like the most random people every night. I have all these people come to my bar. Like I've met like CEOs of companies. I've met like this one guy who's like an executive director for Disney. Like I've met like all these crazy people working as a bartender, and it's honestly been like the best thing that like, besides the money, like I've made so many connections just from working there and like making connections and getting to like not only live your own experiences, but like kind of, listen to others' experiences to kind of like base your life off of a combination of both. And, like I said before, and I will always say it, it's like 21 and like, being your early 20s, like late teens, like, don't be so worried about your future. Like live in the moment because then you're gonna be 45 and be like, damn, I wish I did that when I was, 22. I wish I went on that trip with my boys to go do this crazy thing with my boys when I was 23, All these things that like when you're older, you might regret not doing. So like I definitely like this age is definitely even if you don't have that much money, like, let's save up and like let's go on this trip or let's, do this or do that, do something crazy. You know what? Get in the car and start driving somewhere. It's like something, these are your golden years, honestly. Like in my opinion, these are some of your golden years. Then you'll have, your midlife crisis and then you'll start doing crazy things again, but you can't do them exactly like you did when you were 22. So definitely live in the moment. Just try to, live. Just live. Live in the now. Today's today. Life isn't guaranteed. Everyone's gonna die at some point. So, you might as well do it now.
Like you said, if you like you can just make your life like so much bigger just by doing these random things and like living it to the fullest
Exactly.
and taking advantage of like every single moment that you have. Um,
Exactly.
so I totally agree with all
That's
of
why I've like done like that's why in my opinion, that's why I've had like 9 different lives.
Yes, exactly.
Like
Exactly.
I was a social media influencer and like I went to like all these events and like met a bunch of famous people, which is super cool. Did TikToks with like Lil Huddy and stuff. Like that was very interesting. Then I was like a rapper for a while. I made music.
Yo,
Uh
girl, wanna go to the hills to the guys.
Stop it.
That song is actually so good.
I still have it. I have a remix. I sent it in the chat.
I listen to it. I listen to it all the
Not the
time.
the remix. This is the remix.
I know.
Did that and then freaking I played soccer my whole life. I even played lacrosse at one point and I thought I was gonna be like this lacrosse college player. Uh, what else did I do? I've had my fishing phase, which is now not a phase, it's just life. I fish all the time now and I love it. What else? Freaking soccer,
You're a
military,
chef.
frat boy, did my frat thing.
The chef thing, but the chef thing
Oh, the
has
chef.
been very consistent.
Well,
I
yeah, I mean, I still cook every day. Like,
yeah,
I cook like a lot of crazy dishes for my girlfriend and my friends just cause. And like at the end of the day, like if I ever need like a job that like pays good for a little bit, like I'll just work at a kitchen because like I have the certifications and I have the experience. So if I ever were to be like, hey, like I need a job like now, like I'll just like apply to a kitchen because they always need people. And if they see me with all my certs and all the training, then they'll be like, yeah, like sure. And it doesn't pay too bad. Like last time I worked in the kitchen, I worked as a sous chef at a retirement home and I made like 24 an hour, which is pretty good. And I got free food all day.
exactly.
I was working like 50 to 60 hours a day, 60 hours a week, but that's okay. But yeah, I did the chef thing, I did the Marine Corps thing, I did the frat boy thing, which I'm still in the frat. It's just I feel like all these experiences have made me who I am today. And all the different kinds of people, because like people in the kitchen are completely different than people in a frat, and then people in a frat are completely different than the Marines. And all these like different people that I've met and like from all over the world, especially in the Marine Corps. Like I've met so many people from so many different parts of the country that are like living completely different lives than I am. Like when I was in California just now, we were all together and I got to meet all these people that were from like different states. And like even you'd always think like, oh, like people in different countries live different lives. Americans are all kind of, no, we are not very like I was like looking at these people from Nebraska and I'm like, they're telling me like, yeah, like, so I'm like, what do you guys do for fun? Like, oh, like we go sit in the parking lot and drink. I'm like, oh, nice. Or like my friend was like, yeah, like I live in a cornfield. I'm like, oh, like their experiences are completely different. Super cool people. I love them. Definitely. Wait, I hope I get to train with them again. They got some good Marines over in Nebraska. But like even then, it was just like, meeting all these people have like really gave me a different outlook on life in terms of not everybody has the same experiences as you, and you could definitely use what other people have experienced to help you make decisions and help you live life. Somebody, may deal with something differently than you do, and that gives you a different, opinion on what maybe you could do on a certain situation. And that's definitely something that I've loved about the Marine Corps. Yeah, it comes like now that I think about it, it's like I've done a lot at just 21
Wow,
years. I've
that's
done a
a,
lot of different things.
you
And
have.
it's like almost it feels forever. Like I look at like I still have my TikTok account. I don't really post on it, but like sometimes I like scroll through and I'm like, wow, that's me. Like I don't even look like that anymore. Like I'm completely different, which is really interesting. Life is, great in my opinion. I think, I'm very happy to be alive and be very happy to, have the family I have and have the friends that I have and have been able to do what I've done, which is definitely at the end of the day, just what matters, being happy, like I said. That's what I've been trying to, live life towards, just being happy. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, just try to be happy. Have the better outlook. Trying to
Well,
be a motivational speaker here.
yeah, exactly. We're loving. See, you can add that to your list of
Is that
careers.
the
It's
10th live? I'm
five
just kidding.
of lives. All right, Tomas. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Is there anything else that you want to add or say?
Yeah, I appreciate, being invited on the podcast. Like it's my first podcast.
All
Thank
right.
you for having me on here. I had a
Yeah,
great
I'm glad you had fun. And I want to thank obviously everyone for listening and follow us, me, on Aspiring Adult Podcast on Instagram and Aspiring Adult Pod on TikTok. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. See you on the next one. Bye.